Fix index coverage issues in the new Search Console. In this video session, we're going to explore how we can fix errors and so on. And I'll show you common ways for WordPress as well. The new index coverage report is your website's friend. Basically, what it says to you when it sees errors, it's saying, you have told us about the map of your site by submitting a sitemap. And when we're trying to see certain URLs in that sitemap that you told us to index, we are having errors. So index coverage report error tab shows you that. And then it further guides you saying, this is the type of error. In this example, it's server error. The next one is submitted URL not found, 404 error. Nonetheless, it's an error that must be remedied. But how do we do this? For server errors, I'll show you a couple of server errors, right? For WordPress, this is actually common, and most Rankia fans are experiencing this issue anyway. In fact, most WordPress site owners will see server errors for WordPress theme folders. Many different themes have reported errors in Search Console index coverage. In this example, it's 404. But I actually did have the same error for Rankia theme as well. That means your WordPress theme resides on your web server where you installed WordPress. Within a themes folder, there is a file called index.php. You can download it so you have a backup. Then you can right-click and add it. I'm actually going to show you that server error anyway, because this actually happens for WordPress theme files. So let's save changes. So by default, usually the theme index.php calls upon get header. But at this moment, it just can't see it. I'll show you exactly what that is all about. Let's say WordPress content themes, and let's dive into our theme. And now we've got HTTP error 500. Index coverage, server error 5xx. So this will be the case for WordPress sites. But what if you're not using WordPress? That means you need to press on the error itself, error tab. In my example, I've already remedied it, so I can't show you. But I'll show you submitted URL not found, because it's the same thing. Like when you're fixing errors, you simply press on the URL and then see the example and press on it again. Makes sense? That's for errors, for server errors, submitted URL not found. In either case, identify which URL Google is having problems with your website. Okay? Now, once you identify that, then you can troubleshoot it. And you do that through requesting the page itself and ask yourself, you know what, are you seeing the error? You can use Chrome browser, press on F12 on your keyboard, press on Network tab, and request, as in refresh the page to further troubleshoot the page itself. Let's refresh. Here we're not really getting much information, and the reason for that is probably I've got some filters and so on. But it makes no difference, because you can first go and see robots.txt file to ask yourself, you know what, is Google being blocked? I'll create a blocking rule so that you see what that is all about as well. Let's say WordPress themes, let's put an asterisk there, and let's test it. Remember, this is a testing of robots.txt file in Search Console. Now, when you're running tests, if you see anything blocked, Here, you can actually remedy, as in delete that line and then test it again. If all is good, you can select all using your mouse, or you can Control A, Control C, as in copy. Then go and update the robots.txt file on your web server. Always download the files first so you have a backup. Then you can right click and edit. Highlight everything, delete, and paste the tested version. Because if Google is blocked and robots.txt tester has shown you that it's blocked, then you need to remedy that through robots.txt. Okay? Remember, robots.txt directives is for crawling for Google, not necessarily for indexation. So in this example, I can go fetch as Google, as in fetch test robots.txt blocking to see if everything is okay there. If not, you now know how to remedy that. The next part is you can fetch as Google. Actually, I'm going to fetch this URL to show you that 500 error. Let's fetch and render this particular URL. Remember, there's nothing unique on this URL for WordPress anyway. And it says, you know what, we just couldn't reach that URL. Makes sense, because it's throwing 500 server errors. Now let's save changes. Let's refresh. If function exists, this, that, yes. Let's save changes and refresh. Now we're getting 400 server error, right? But I want to actually show you the error, as I've said, right? So I want to fetch it. But use get header. Save changes. Now let me go fetch and render. It's going to be unreachable because there's a problem now. Google can't access it. Make sense? That's why when you end up seeing index coverage issues, whether it's server errors, submitted URL, and so on, you first go and check robots.txt file, as in directives in the tester. If there are problems, simply update robots.txt on your web server. Next, you go fetch as Google to see, you know what? Okay, can Google fetch it, as in access it? Then you need to fetch and render. Because when you fetch and render, then you have more insights here. This is how people saw it. This is how Google saw it. Rendered the page. So that means it can now access it. You can press on fetching to see further information here. Keep an eye out for no index directives here itself, because no index directives can be served through PHP. Then view as search results, it says. Okay, is that in Google search results? In this example, it isn't, because I control the indexation for that page. I'll show you how to do that for typical WordPress site anyway. So once again, I'll actually paste the correct one for WordPress themes. So you can pause this video, I'll zoom in to show you. Please do not ask for me to share this in the YouTube video, because YouTube videos don't allow me to share code in the description. As I've said, let's go and see a typical WordPress. Indexation control can be managed through appearance editor and header.php file for your theme. If you can't access the editor here, it means your theme doesn't allow modifications from the dashboard. That means you need to log into your cPanel or web server. Because here, there's a file called header.php. Within it, you can control indexation. I'll show you my local copy because it's color-coded. And I'll show you some samples here. Here, that page, I don't want Google to index anymore. So therefore, now I will serve no index. But I also have to make sure this URL here, let's go and see, because index coverage issue is submitted URL not found. That means I have a sitemap on my website that has that URL. Let's edit post. I'll actually generate that for here as well. So you see. Submitted URL. Let's say yes, yes. Using Yoast plugin, because by pressing on the gear icon, you can further control indexation of a particular landing page. That means now let me refresh this page. I should see this URL somehow, because that's what Google saw. Makes sense? So here there is a URL in the sitemap. I'm telling Google, you know what? That URL is part of my website, that you should crawl it and then index it. And when I do that, and if it sees page not found for that URL that was in my sitemap that I have submitted to Search Console. So right now I have to go back to the old Search Console because actually no, I don't. I can press on sitemaps. These are the sitemaps that I've submitted, and within that there is a URL that Google can't see. Why is that not seeing it? Because it's marked as private for WordPress. Because with WordPress you can mark certain things as private. Or remember that rarely, and this could happen, that index coverage report may be showing submitted URL not found, and it could be a moment in time. So let's go and refresh that. Visit the page, press on F12 on our keyboard, bring up Web Developer Toolbar and look at Network tab, and let's refresh the page itself to see what server status code that we're getting. We're getting 200, not 404. So that means if you can see the live site, live URL, and you fetched as Google and there was no problems, as in there was no issues in terms of unreachable, error, redirected, and so on. So let's fetch and render now. It's still gonna perhaps see errors now, right? But fetch as Google is your friend for troubleshooting index coverage issues. Because right now you can see if Google can at least fetch it and render it. For this URL, yes, it has done that just before. So instead of waiting, let me go in there and show you. For this request, which I've made a couple of minutes ago, right? So that means all is okay here. I know it's rather very confusing at this moment, isn't it? But at the end of the day, there is other information on the internet telling you, oh, don't worry about these errors. The fact is, any error that you see here, it must be fixed. Because if Google can't index the URLs that you're telling Google to index, then there is something wrong on your website. The options that you have, you either need to remove the URL from the sitemap. You can do that. For WordPress, I'll show you how you can remove that URL from the sitemap. If you're using Yoast, go to Edit Post, and then press on the gear icon and select No. For allow search engines to show this post in search results, select No. Should search engines follow links on this post? Select No. Oh yes, that makes no difference really. Let's update the page itself. What makes a difference is the first setting. because now Yoast will remove that from the sitemap. Let's search for that page, and as you can see, it's no longer there. That means when Google sees the sitemap next time, it will see, you know what, that URL is gone. And obviously, it's not going to report any errors. Okay, but that's only for the URLs you do not want Google to see. Make sense? So you can serve no index. That's a smarter option. The reason you want to serve no index, because even if you remove a URL from a sitemap, that doesn't mean Google can't see that, especially for WordPress or different content management systems, because Google follows links. The link to that URL we just removed from the sitemap could be within the data archives. Make sense? And if Google follows that, it still will see it. So then, at that moment, if you have certain URLs that you don't want in Google Index, your only option is two things. One is you serve no index directive. Actually, you have three different options. One is serve no index. That's one. If it's a password protected directory, as in if it's a really private content that shouldn't be in Google, it could be personal sensitive information. If that's the case, no index, yes, you should always serve that if you don't want certain parts of a site to be in Google. The next, you can password protect certain parts of a site. It could be folders, it could be normal files. You can password protect. In fact, that's the strongest way to disallow Google to see a part of a site by using password protection. The next, if the URL in question has really sensitive information, perhaps account logins and so on, that can be found in Google. Okay, if people can see it, then you want that removed quickly. How you do that? You use remove URLs feature in Search Console and simply give the URL to the page that you do not want Google to see, as in to remove. This is the quickest way. Okay, where are we? No removal requests in the last 6 months. That's no problem. Let's press on temporarily hide. But remember, that's temporarily hiding. You still need to follow no index or password protect that directory. Even if you're using remove URLs, because it's only going to temporarily hide this. Because if it's still on your site, then Google still will see it. Make sense? So index coverage errors, fixing them, there are many different scenarios, because there are many different content management systems. You may be using Magento, you may be using WordPress, you may be using Shopify, you may be using Blogger, you may be using Wix, and all of them may show you different errors here. But how you fix it is, first, press on the tab, press on the URL, test the robots.txt, fetch as Google, triple check the URL in question. Do you really want that URL in Google's index? If so, if robots.txt is okay, and if you can fetch as Google, then you can basically mark as fixed, as in validate fix. Make sense? But testing the sitemap. Okay, well, here let me show you another insight which is important in Search Console, which is all known pages. Because Google has a long memory, that means it may show you reports that has seen maybe 2-3 years ago. Well, if that's the case, some of them you can actually ignore, but you still need to triple check everything. Make sense? Because all known pages is historical data. If you're analyzing troubleshooting issues for index coverage, look at page sitemap or whatever the sitemap you've submitted. Look at them first. Here it says submitted URL not found. Press on that. Yes. Or you have filters here. You can download, you can even filter when it was last crawled to say, was it 2 weeks ago? And you fixed it now. Because it could be that Google is having problem a moment in time when your website is being updated and so on. Make sense? So I went through many different angles to show you how to fix index coverage issues. And I've actually created some errors myself so that you can perhaps pause if you're using WordPress and grab the sample code so that you don't have problems with your website. In either case, index coverage report, errors must be fixed. One way or another, they must be fixed and validated. Or else Google can show whatever the URL Googlebot is having problems with in Google search. So thus you lose rankings, particularly for pages that is already bringing website traffic to your website. If that's the case, get in there and fix it. I know I've went through many different angles, but I've created 2-3 different videos related to index coverage report, and most ranker fans are still having problems, so I've decided to go through many different angles to show you many different scenarios for fixing it. In either case, triple check everything. Keep following Ranker because that's much appreciated by Ranker. Greetings from Australia, and I'll talk with you in the next video session.